Welcome back to Our Issues Milwaukee. I'm your host, Andrea Williams. We've been discussing America's Black Holocaust Museum with Mr. Reggie Jackson, who is the head griot for the museum. And Reggie, gosh, you've given us so much great information up to this point. We've talked about Dr. Cameron's life, all the things that happened to him from the age of 16 up to a certain point. Well, he had already written his memoir by the time he was 21 years old, and it took 50 years for that memoir to be published, and here's the third edition sitting right here, and you played a role in putting a little something special in this particular edition, right? Talk about that.
Yes, I did. So this is the third edition. Dr. Cameron actually originally published it himself. He took out a second mortgage on his home because no publisher would publish it. He got hundreds of rejection letters. Eventually he published it himself, and he went on the Oprah Winfrey show and talked about the story, and eventually Black Classic Press picked up the book and published it until 1994. It went out of print. So a while back we had gotten hold of the original manuscript that Dr. Cameron had typed, and there was information in it that had never been in either the first or second edition. We said people need to hear some of these additional stories. So we began to work on this third edition. Dr. Fran Kaplan, Dr. Robert Smith wrote the introduction, kind of putting into historical context what was going on in 1930 when the lynching took place, because people kind of know a little bit about Jim Crow, but they don't know the details of it, so they contextualized that in the introduction. And then I wrote the afterword for the book. So the book actually ends when Dr. Cameron gets out of prison at the age of 21. And so what I write about is what happened to him after those things happened. And I go back and talk a little bit about some of his early years as well. And then I also talk about my relationship with him and how we grew to be very close friends, and he became my mentor as I volunteered with the museum for those last 4 years of his life.
And what really makes it special and really brings a lot of things to life as you're reading the story are the vintage photographs that really help put it all together. It is a time of terror, a survivor's story. And what I really wanted to focus on, well, quickly, I wanted to mention that it received the 2016 Independent Publisher Book Award, and you just received an award from the Milwaukee Press Club, right?
Yes.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you. I won the Silver Award for Best Online Column for last year.
That's awesome. So Dr. Cameron will be gone, if I'm correct, 12 years, coming up on June 11th.
Yes.
And it was in 2008 that the museum closed due to the Great Recession of that particular year, and it was you and other community members who decided to create a virtual Black Holocaust Museum because of the closing, and that way you were able to keep the mission alive, really continue to educate, and really what worked on our sides, you know, say we as a community, is that we've become such a digital world anyway, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So Dr. Fran Kaplan was part of that original group that came together to see if we could kind of continue doing Dr. Cameron's work. And so she came up with the brilliant idea of creating an online museum, a virtual museum. And so that became kind of our museum space without having a building. We called ourselves a museum without walls, and then eventually a museum beyond the walls. And we recognized that it was very important because we could do things without a building that we couldn't do with a building. So we really were able to expand the work that we did in terms of getting out into the community and doing events. And the book, you know, is a testament to that work that this group did. This is just a small piece of what we worked on, was the book. And the important thing was to put the photographs in the book so that people could kind of understand some of the language. You know, he used slang from back in the 1930s. He told a lot of, you know, funny stories in the book. So we wanted people to be able to kind of be able to contextualize what was going on, and you know, family photographs and things of that nature were a big part of this book that wasn't in the first or second edition.
Yeah, so it just really means so much, and I know Dr. Cameron is smiling down, just making that connection with you and so many other people, and you guys taking on that role of keeping his memory, his dream, and his mission alive just says so much. I'm sure I say thank you for a lot of people who are watching. What I wanted to talk about now, and this is so amazing, the restoration of the museum. It's going to be in a brand new building now, and we're soon going to see the unveiling, so to speak. Tell us about that.
Well, you know, for a number of years, we continued to do Dr. Cameron's work without a building. Real estate developer Melissa Gowans decided to try to create this development in Bronzeville, and she wanted the Black Holocaust Museum to be a central part of that. So she worked for a number of years to get funding, and finally they were able to get the funding, and they're creating this building. It'll be the Griot Apartments. So it'll be a 4-story building being built right on the corner of 4th and North Avenue. The first floor commercial space will be the new home for America's Black Holocaust Museum, and there will be apartments above. And so we're excited to have a new space. You know, June 10th day is coming up soon. That'll be the 30th anniversary when Dr. Cameron first opened it. So that'll be a really important moment.
The stars just line up, right?
Right.
It's amazing. It really is.
So the space itself will not be completed. They'll still, we have companies that are working on building the exhibits as we speak right now. So they're working on designing those, putting them together. And so the space itself with the exhibits won't be completed until later in the year, sometime in the fall.
But people will get a sneak peek. You've got a couple of things coming up. I want to definitely mention Monday, June 18th at 10 a.m. There's a special program featuring actor and social activist Danny Glover. Is that as in Mr. from The Color Purple? That particular event is free and open to the public, but then like you mentioned, on Juneteenth Day from 6 to 9 p.m. there is a reception and a special program that is a ticketed event, and they're going to have special guests Aja Monet and Sonia Sanchez, and outstanding poet who many people are excited. I've heard my friends talk about they have to be there. So again, this is a ticketed event that's going to be at 401 West North Avenue, and for information on that particular event you can go to eventbrite.com. But quickly, Dr. James Cameron was recognized as the only living survivor of a lynching for many, many years, and in 2005 he did travel to the nation's capital, and he was invited along with hundreds of others to actually witness the historic signing of a public apology by the U.S. Senate for never passing an anti-lynching bill. What is so moving is that he was able to witness so many things, considering that, you know, it took him years to build upon what he wanted to see come to fruition, and he saw it all, and you guys are keeping it going, which says so much.
I mean, it's a testament to who he was as an individual, all of the lives that he touched. I tell people all the time that anyone who ever met Dr. Cameron and talked with him just fell in love with him, because he had just this ability to keep you you would not want to say a word while he was talking.
That's true.
He was very funny too. People don't know how funny he was. He was hilarious. And he would tell, you know, the story of the lynching, obviously, but he would tell so many other very interesting stories of the journey he had been on. And when he went to Washington for that event in 2005, one of the things that he told me when he came back was he was very disappointed that the full Senate wasn't there. There were only a handful of senators in the room. It made it look on television like the full Senate was there, but just a handful of senators were there, including Senator Barack Obama at the time. So he was disappointed that they didn't show that support. But he was happy that they did acknowledge that they had never passed this anti-lynching law, even though the House of Representatives passed several versions of it over the years.
Yeah, and something that really meant a lot to him is the fact that he was pardoned by the state of Indiana for that particular situation that took place. So much has happened since then. In Montgomery, Alabama, there's a National Memorial for Peace and Justice. It was opened there to remember the thousands of Americans who were hanged, burned, or otherwise murdered by white mobs. When you hear of that, we know Dr. Cameron would have been elated to know that people were remembered in that way. What are your thoughts?
Well, part of the motivation for that exhibit in the memorial there, Brian Stevenson, I met him about a year and a half ago at an event in Racine, and I talked to him. He actually met Dr. Cameron on several occasions, like 3 or 4 occasions, and he knew the story of Dr. Cameron. He knew about the museum as well, and he said that, you know, part of what he wanted to do was that we don't memorialize victims of hatred here in the United States like some other countries do. For instance, in Germany, there are markers and memorials all over Germany for victims of the Holocaust. And he said it's important for us to begin to kind of reach a point of reconciliation by telling the truth about these lynchings that took place, and then creating memorials around the country to where people were victimized, so that we can move into that next phase, which is where we begin to have honest discussions about these things and the ramifications of them. And then you can get to the point of reconciliation moving forward, which is, one of the goals that Dr. Cameron had as well.
Absolutely. And looking at the political climate of the world we live in today, we are seeing kind of racism rear its ugly head in a way that I don't think many people even imagined it could be in 2018. But you are doing your part in traveling regionally and internationally, or nationally, I should say, really kind of making people better understand the social problems and introducing them to situations that have to do with the Black Holocaust. And so I appreciate you doing that. And you also taught sociology at Concordia University as well. So doing great things and definitely making a difference here in Milwaukee. Thank you so much for your time. And I understand why you're the head griot, because you really know how to tell a story. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the invitation.
It has been a pleasure talking to you. Reggie Jackson, he's the head griot for America's Black Holocaust Museum. For more information on anything that we've discussed today, you can visit abhmuseum.org. As we wrap up, I wanted to leave you with video footage from the honorary street naming ceremony for Dr. Lester Carter that I was proud to MC. Let's take a look. His name and face is a fixture on Milwaukee's North Side. Even after 50 years, Dr. Lester Carter continues to keep this community healthy, and on May 18th, he was honored for his many years of service. It was in 1967 that Dr. Lester Carter moved to Milwaukee and decided within a 6-month period that he wanted to own his own pharmacy, and that's when he purchased this building right here on the corner of 24th and Burleigh. And what's really special is that he still works 3 days a week. Community leaders, including Mayor Barrett, told heartfelt stories of what Dr. Carter means to this neighborhood.
What he did that was so special is he connected with people in their lives where they are in a real world way. And he cared about them.
And when we talk about the things that really make a neighborhood healthy, Dr. Carter, he talk about the health of a community. I really want y'all to think about that. He talking about the health, the wellness of a community. And for that, we truly grateful.
This occasion has been just absolutely, totally mind-boggling. It's just more than I ever dreamed that would ever happen to me.
It was a special unveiling of a street sign right there on the corner of 24th and Burleigh, a reminder of just how special Dr. Lester Carter is. That is going to do it for today's show. I'm your host, Andrea Williams. As always, thank you for watching, and I do hope you join us again next week as we take another look at Our Issues Milwaukee. Have a great day.